Imagine overhearing your own daughter laughing about putting you in a nursing home, while secretly planning to sell the house you built with your own hands. For one father, that moment didn't break his heart, it lit a fire. And what he did next destroyed their perfect plan in ways they never saw coming. Before we dive into this unbelievable story, drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss the next twist. I was halfway through scraping the last bit of dinner off my plate when the phone lit up. The name on the screen made me pause. My daughter. For a moment, the heaviness in my chest eased. Her voice always carried that warmth that reminded me of better days, back when the house wasn't so quiet. "Dad, how are you holding up?" she asked, cheerful but rushed, like she was already halfway out the door. I leaned back in the old recliner, the one my wife used to claim for her evening reading. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just finished dinner." I didn't mention it was leftovers from 3 nights ago, or that I'd been staring at her mother's photo for an hour before the call. Some truths are too heavy to drop into casual conversation. She asked if I was eating enough, if I remembered how to use that grocery app she'd shown me. I brushed it off with a laugh, though the truth was less comforting. Yesterday, I'd left the burner on under the coffee pot. The smell of scorched metal had pulled me back before disaster struck. I didn't tell her that part either. Her tone shifted, gentle concern, the kind that feels rehearsed. "Dad, maybe we should talk about getting someone to check in on you more often." I changed the subject quickly, asking about her trip. Phoenix, conferences, investors. She laughed, but it sounded hollow, like she was already somewhere else in her mind. "We said our goodbyes. Love you, Dad. Love you too." The line clicked, and I reached to hang up. That's when I heard it, the muffled shuffle of her phone slipping into her purse, followed by voices that weren't meant for me. Jeremy's voice came first, sharp and practical. "He's slipping, Caitlin. Forgot the stove yesterday. What if he burns the place down?" Then hers, colder than I'd ever heard. "The house is worth close to $1 million now. We could sell it, put him somewhere decent, and finally get that place in Boulder." I froze. My hand hovered over the receiver, but I couldn't move. Their words poured through the line, each one cutting deeper. My daughter laughed, actually laughed, about how grateful I'd been just to hear her voice. The room around me seemed to shrink. The walls, the furniture, the memories, they all pressed in, heavy with betrayal. My wife's photo stared back at me from the mantel, her eyes carrying a question I didn't want to answer. They thought I was weak. They thought I was confused. They thought they could erase me from the life I built with my own hands. But I wasn't gone yet. And I wasn't nearly as helpless as they believed. What I did next would turn their quiet little plan upside down, and they would never see it coming. The silence after that call was heavier than any sound. I sat there, staring at the walls I had built with my own hands, and for the first time, they felt foreign. Every corner of the house carried Ellen's touch, her laughter, her choices, her dreams. And now, those same walls had overheard my daughter plotting to erase me from them. I wandered into the kitchen, my steps slow, deliberate. The granite countertops gleamed under the dim light, the same ones Ellen had insisted on because the gold streaks reminded her of sunlight. I ran my hand across the surface, remembering the nights I'd worked late, measuring and cutting until my back ached, just so she could have the kitchen she wanted. The memories came in waves. Christmas mornings with Caitlin running down the stairs, her face glowing when she saw the dollhouse I'd built in secret. The bay window Ellen had begged for, where she'd sit with her tea and mystery novels. Every nail, every board, every sacrifice, it was all here. And now, my daughter saw nothing but dollar signs. I opened the drawer where I kept old receipts, the ones Ellen had told me to save, just in case. Tuition payments, wedding bills, car loans, all the proof of years I'd worked myself raw to give Caitlin the life she wanted. I remembered her tears when I told her we couldn't afford the wedding she dreamed of, and how I'd bent anyway, working weekends until my hands blistered. She had called me the best father in the world that night. Funny how quickly words fade when money enters the picture. Jeremy's voice echoed in my head, smug and calculating. "He's becoming a burden. A burden." That word cut deeper than any insult. I had carried them when they were broke, housed them when they had nowhere else to go, paid bills they couldn't cover. And now, I was nothing more than an obstacle to their bolder dream house. I climbed the stairs, each step heavier than the last, until I reached the bedroom Ellen and I had shared. Her jewelry box still sat on the dresser, her glasses folded neatly beside it. The air smelled faintly of her perfume, a ghost lingering in the fabric of the room. I opened the drawer where the house deed rested, my name printed clearly, no co-signers, no complications.
Mine.
Her voice came back to me, soft but firm, from those final days. Promise me you won't let them take advantage of you. I had promised. And now, staring at that deed, I realized it was time to finally keep that promise. They thought I was too old to fight back, but the plan I was about to set in motion would prove them wrong. The next morning, I woke with a heaviness that felt different. Not grief, not fatigue, something sharper. Resolve. Ellen's words from years ago echoed in my head like they'd been waiting for this moment. Don't give her so much that she forgets to be grateful. I had ignored that advice, blinded by love and duty. And now, my daughter's laughter on that phone call proved Ellen had been right all along. I walked through the house slowly, as if seeing it for the first time. Not as a home, but as an asset, the way Caitlin and Jeremy saw it. Square footage. Market value. Liquid equity. To them, this wasn't the place where Ellen had planted her garden or where Caitlin had taken her first steps. It was a number, a transaction, a stepping stone to their bolder dream. But to me, every corner carried a story. The bay window I'd built for Ellen so she could read in the afternoon light. The coffee table I'd sanded smooth while Caitlin did her homework at my feet. The hardwood floors I'd installed one board at a time, imagining family dinners and Christmas mornings. I opened the folder Ellen had insisted we keep, financial records spanning decades. Tuition bills, wedding invoices, car loans. Proof of every sacrifice I'd made. I remembered the double shifts, the weekends spent working under the table just to cover Caitlin's dream wedding. I remembered her whispering, "Daddy, you're the best father in the world." And now, she was plotting to sell the very house I'd built to give her that life. I pulled out the deed, my name printed clearly. No co-signers. No loopholes. Just me. This house was mine, and no one could take it without my consent. That realization lit something inside me, a fire I hadn't felt in years. I thought of Ellen's final request, her frail hand gripping mine. Promise me you'll take care of yourself. I had promised, but I hadn't kept it. Not until now. I reached into my desk drawer and pulled out a business card I'd kept tucked away for years. Todd Fisher, real estate attorney. Ellen had insisted we meet him after her diagnosis, just to make sure our affairs were in order. I hadn't called him since. But now, staring at that card, I knew it was time. My daughter thought she was playing chess with a confused old man, but I was about to make the first move she'd never expect. 333333333333333. By the time I stepped into Todd Fisher's office, I had already rehearsed the story a dozen times in my head. The building wasn't flashy, just a modest brick structure tucked between a coffee shop and a hardware store. The kind of place that didn't scream prestige but whispered reliability. Ellen had chosen him years ago, back when she was sick, insisting we get our affairs in order. I hadn't realized then how wise that decision would be. Todd greeted me with a firm handshake, his eyes steady, the kind of gaze that told you he'd heard every family betrayal imaginable. His office smelled faintly of coffee and old paper, lined with law books and family photos. A wife, 2 teenagers, a golden retriever. Normalcy. Stability. Everything I thought I had built, now crumbling under the weight of my daughter's greed. I sat across from him, my voice surprisingly calm as I laid out the story. The overheard phone call. The laughter. The plan to sell my house and tuck me away in some resort with medical staff. Todd listened without interruption, his pen scratching notes across a yellow legal pad. When I finished, he leaned back, folding his hands. "Mr. Hayes, let me be clear. Your daughter and son-in-law have no legal claim to your property. None. The deed is in your name alone. They cannot sell it, cannot force you into a facility, Cannot touch your assets without your consent. Relief washed over me, but it was quickly replaced by something sharper. Anger. Determination. So if I wanted to sell it myself? You could, Todd said, nodding. Denver's market is strong. Homes like yours, well-maintained, established neighborhoods, they move fast. Cash buyers are everywhere right now. I thought of Caitlin's laugh, Jeremy's cold calculation. They believed I was too old, too confused to fight back. But Todd's words lit a fire inside me. It's your property. Your decision. We spent the next hour discussing options. Quick sales, cash offers, timelines. Todd explained how fast things could move if I was serious. With the right buyer, we could close in a week. Maybe less. A week. My daughter would be back in 8 days, expecting to find me docile, ready to be shipped off. Instead, she'd find something entirely different. I paid the consultation fee in cash, my hand steady as I slid the bills across his desk. Walking out into the bright Denver afternoon, I felt lighter than I had in months. For the first time since Ellen's passing, I wasn't just surviving, I was planning. My daughter thought she had me cornered, but I was already setting the trap, and she wouldn't see it until it snapped shut. The phone rang again that evening, Caitlin's name glowing on the screen. For the first time since that awful call, I didn't feel dread, I felt calm. I let it buzz a few times before picking up, just to remind myself that I wasn't at her beck and call anymore. Dad, there you are. Her voice was syrupy sweet, too polished, too rehearsed. I was starting to worry when you didn't answer earlier. I leaned against the counter, staring at the bay window Ellen had loved so much. Sorry, sweetheart. I was out running errands. My tone was warm, grandfatherly, the kind she expected. She launched into her pitch, her words dripping with false kindness. Jeremy and I have been planning something special for you. A little vacation. A resort, but with medical staff on hand, just in case. A resort. That was their disguise for a nursing home. My jaw tightened, but I forced a smile into my voice. That sounds thoughtful. Jeremy's voice chimed in from the background, smooth and calculated. We've already made arrangements. You'll be comfortable, don't worry. I gripped the phone tighter, my knuckles whitening. They wanted me gone before they returned, tucked away neatly so they could claim the house. But instead of anger, I felt something else. Control. They thought they were steering the conversation, but I was already miles ahead. Well, I said slowly, I've been working on a surprise for you too. Something I think you'll find unexpected. Her tone brightened instantly, genuine excitement breaking through. Oh, Dad, what kind of surprise? She probably imagined I'd signed papers, made their job easier. I looked out at the garden Ellen had planted, the porch swing where we'd dreamed together. You'll see when you get back. Trust me, it'll be worth the wait. She laughed, relieved. You're so sweet, Dad. We'll talk about everything when we're home. Sweet. That word stung, but I let it pass. I love you, Caitlin. Love you too, Dad. The line went dead, and I set the phone down with hands steadier than they'd been in weeks. I walked to my office, opened my laptop, and typed, Real Estate Agents, Denver. Names filled the screen, each one a potential weapon. I compared testimonials, success rates, timelines. One name kept appearing, Brian Connor. Quick sales. Cash buyers. 10 days from listing to closing. Exactly what I needed. I dialed his number, my voice firm. Mr. Connor, my name is Roy Hayes. I'm interested in selling my house quickly. How fast can these things happen? His answer was the spark I'd been waiting for. 10 days, if the property's right. In less than 2 weeks, my daughter would return expecting control, but she'd walk into a storm she couldn't stop. Brian Connor showed up right on time, portfolio in hand, his smile professional but not forced. He stepped into the entryway and froze, his eyes scanning the crown molding, the hardwood floors, the way the afternoon light poured through Ellen's bay window. Mr. Hayes, he said, almost breathless, this is exactly the kind of property investors dream about. I watched him move through the house, tablet in hand, snapping photos, jotting notes. He ran his hand along the granite countertop, the one Ellen had chosen because the gold veining reminded her of sunlight. "Custom work?" he asked. "Every inch," I replied, my voice steady. "I measured it myself. Took 3 weekends to get it right." He nodded, impressed. "You weren't kidding about maintaining this place. Most homes this age don't look half this good." I followed him as he admired the open floor plan, the built-in shelves, the fireplace. He paused at the bay window, measuring angles, taking another photo. "This is beautiful. You built this yourself." "For my wife," I said quietly. "She wanted a reading nook." Brian's tone shifted, more serious now. "Mr. Hayes, I need to show you something." He pulled up comparable listings on his tablet. Houses in the same area, similar size, selling between $850,000 and $920,000. My chest tightened. That was more than Caitlin and Jeremy had guessed in their whispered conversation. "Given the condition of your home," Brian continued, "and the custom features, I'd recommend listing at $890,000. It'll move quickly, and you'll get top dollar." I sat down in Ellen's old reading chair, the numbers spinning in my head. $890,000. More than I'd ever imagined. More than they'd ever planned. Brian leaned forward, his voice confident. "I actually have an investment group looking for exactly this type of property. Cash buyers. No financing delays. They can close in 10 business days. 10 days. Caitlin and Jeremy would be back in 8, expecting to find me ready to pack for their resort. Instead, they'd walk into a house that no longer belonged to them, or to me. I looked around the living room, seeing it through new eyes. Not just as a home, but as leverage. As proof that I wasn't the helpless old man they thought I was. "What's the catch?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. Brian smiled. "No catch. Cash means no delays, no contingencies. Honestly, your house is in better shape than most new builds I've seen." I nodded slowly, the fire inside me burning brighter. For the first time in years, I felt in control. The papers weren't signed yet, but once they were, my daughter's entire plan would collapse overnight. 66666666666666666. The moment Brian left, the house felt different. His words echoed in my head. Cash buyers, 10 days, no contingencies. It was like a countdown had started, ticking louder than the grandfather clock in the hallway. I stood in the living room, staring at the bay window Ellen had loved, and realized what I had just set in motion. In less than 2 weeks, this house, the one I had built nail by nail, sacrifice by sacrifice, would no longer be mine. And strangely, that thought didn't break me. It steadied me. Because selling it wasn't surrender. It was strategy. I spent the next hours cleaning like a man possessed. Not the casual tidying Ellen used to insist on before guests, but something sharper, almost ritualistic. Dusting the shelves, polishing the wood, straightening every pillow. Each motion carried weight, as if I were preparing the house for judgment. The kitchen gleamed under the light. I scrubbed the counters until the gold veining in the granite shone like sunlight. I wiped down the cabinets, remembering Ellen's laughter when I'd installed them crooked the first time. "You're an engineer, Roy," she'd teased. "Measure twice, cut once." Upstairs, I opened Caitlin's old room. The walls were still painted that soft yellow she'd chosen at 16, photos of high school friends still taped to the mirror. I straightened the desk I'd built for her, running my hand across its surface. She had once cried over algebra homework here, and I had sat beside her, patient, proud. Now, she was crying over real estate dreams in Boulder. In our bedroom, Ellen's perfume lingered faintly in the air. Her bookmark still sat in the novel she'd never finish. I smoothed the quilt across the bed, my hands trembling for just a moment. This room had been our sanctuary, our place of whispered dreams. Soon, strangers would walk through it, measuring closets, calculating square footage. By the time the doorbell rang at exactly 3 o'clock, the house was spotless. My shirt was pressed, my hands steady. I opened the door, and Brian stepped inside, portfolio ready, eyes sharp. He paused in the entryway, taking it all in. "Mr. Hayes," he said softly, "this is going to move fast." I nodded, the weight of the moment pressing down but not breaking me. This wasn't just a sale, it was a reckoning. The papers were about to be signed, but what I didn't know then was how quickly the storm would hit once my daughter realized the truth. Brian returned the next day, portfolio under his arm, his stride confident. He didn't waste time with small talk. He was here to move things forward. He spread the documents across my kitchen table, the same table where Ellen and I had once calculated tuition bills and grocery budgets late into the night. "Mr. Hayes," he began, tapping the papers, "this is the listing agreement. Once you sign, I'll get the photos uploaded, push it to my investor network, and we'll be rolling." I stared at the stack of papers, my fingers brushing the edge of the deed. For a moment, doubt crept in. Was I really ready to let go of the house Ellen and I had built from nothing? The walls held every memory, her laughter, Caitlin's first steps, the quiet evenings when life felt whole. Selling it felt like tearing out a piece of myself. But then I remembered Caitlin's voice, cold and calculating. "He's a burden. The house is worth almost $1 million. Jeremy's smug tone. "We should strike while he still trusts us completely." That memory hardened me. This wasn't surrender, it was defense. It was proof that I wasn't the confused old man they thought I was. Brian slid a pen across the table. "I'll be honest with you, Mr. Hayes. This property is going to move fast. Cash buyers love homes like this. Clean, well-maintained, original owner. You'll have offers within days." I picked up the pen, my hand steady. "And once it's sold, there's no way they can touch it?" "None," Brian said firmly. "It's your property, your decision. They don't have a claim." I signed, each stroke of ink feeling like a declaration. Not just of ownership, but of independence. Of defiance. Brian gathered the papers, his smile professional but tinged with excitement. "I'll have the listing live tonight. Expect calls tomorrow." As he left, I sat alone at the table, staring at the empty space where the papers had been. The house felt different now, less like a home, more like a weapon. A weapon I had just loaded, aimed squarely at the people who thought they could erase me. The ink was barely dry, but already the clock was ticking, and my daughter had no idea what was coming. The listing went live that night. Brian had promised me calls within 24 hours, but I didn't expect the flood that came. By morning, my phone was buzzing non-stop. Agents, investors, cash buyers. Each one eager, each one circling like hawks that had spotted prey. I sat at the kitchen table, the same place where Ellen and I had once mapped out our future, listening to Brian's updates. "We've got 3 serious offers already," he said, his voice brimming with confidence. "All cash. No contingencies. They want to close fast." Fast. That word carried a new kind of weight. Caitlin and Jeremy were still in Phoenix, probably sipping wine with investors, laughing about how easy it would be to shuffle me off to their resort. They had no idea the ground was shifting beneath them. I walked through the house, each room echoing with memories. The dollhouse I'd built for Caitlin still sat in the corner of the garage, dusty but intact. The bay window Ellen had loved glowed in the morning light. I paused there, staring out at the garden she had planted, and felt a strange calm settle over me. This wasn't just about selling a house, it was about reclaiming control. The phone buzzed again. Brian's voice was urgent this time. "Mr. Hayes, one of the groups is offering above asking. 900,000. Gosh. They'll close in 10 days. 900,000. More than Caitlin had whispered to Jeremy in that cruel conversation. More than they had dreamed of. And it was mine. I leaned back in Ellen's chair, the weight of years pressing down but not breaking me. For the first time since her passing, I felt like I was keeping the promise I had made to her, to take care of myself, to not let anyone take advantage of me. The clock ticked steadily in the hallway. 8 days until Caitlin and Jeremy returned. 10 days until the closing. The timing was perfect. I poured myself a glass of water, staring at the phone on the counter. Caitlin would call again soon, her voice dripping with false sweetness. And when she did, I would answer. Come. Warm. Just the way she expected. But underneath, the trap was already set. The offers were in, the deal was moving, but the real storm would begin when Caitlin came home. The offers were on the table, the ink already drying on the listing agreement, and yet the house felt louder than ever. Every creak of the floorboards, every tick of the grandfather clock carried a weight I couldn't ignore. It was as if the walls themselves knew what was coming, that soon strangers would walk through, measuring closets and counting bedrooms, while my daughter still believed she had me tucked neatly into her plans. Brian called again that morning, his voice brisk and energized. "Mr. Hayes, we've got a buyer ready to move. 900,000, cash. They want to close in 10 days. 10 days. The number echoed in my head like a drumbeat. Caitlin and Jeremy would be back in 8, expecting me to pack for their so-called vacation. They'd walk through the door smiling, certain they had me cornered. But instead, they'd find a house already spoken for, a future already rewritten. I poured myself a cup of coffee, staring at Ellen's photo on the mantel. Her eyes seemed to hold me steady, reminding me of the promise I had made, to take care of myself, to not let anyone take advantage of me. For the first time in years, I felt like I was keeping that promise. The phone buzzed again. Caitlin's name lit up the screen. I let it ring, just long enough to remind myself that I wasn't at her mercy anymore. When I finally answered, her voice was bright, rehearsed. "Dad, how are you? We've been thinking about that resort." I cut her off gently, my tone calm, almost cheerful. "Sweetheart, I've been busy too. Working on something you'll want to hear about when you get back." She laughed, relieved, probably imagining I'd signed something to make her job easier. "You're always so thoughtful, Dad." Thoughtful. That word burned, but I let it pass. Because soon, she'd learn just how thoughtful I could be. I hung up, my hands steady, my heart calm. The trap was set. The countdown had begun. In 8 days, Caitlin would walk through that front door, and what she found waiting would shatter her perfect plan. 8 days passed like a slow drumbeat, each tick of the clock pulling me closer to the moment of reckoning. The house was no longer just mine. It was already halfway gone, tied up in contracts and promises that Caitlin and Jeremy didn't even know existed. On the morning they were due back, I stood in the living room, staring at the bay window Ellen had loved. The garden outside was alive with winter sunlight, but inside, the air felt charged, waiting. I could almost hear Ellen's voice whispering, "Stay steady, Roy. Don't let them break you." The sound of tires crunching on the driveway snapped me out of my thoughts. Their car pulled up, shiny and smug, just like the two of them stepping out. Caitlin's smile was wide, rehearsed, the kind she used when she wanted something. Jeremy carried himself with that same arrogance I'd heard in his voice over the phone. Confident, certain, already counting money that wasn't his. "Dad." Caitlin called, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "We're back. Did you miss us?" I opened the door, calm, steady, almost welcoming. "Of course, sweetheart. Come in." They stepped inside, their eyes scanning the house like vultures circling a carcass. Jeremy's gaze lingered on the hardwood floors, the granite countertops, the bay window. He was already imagining dollar signs. Caitlin set her purse down, her tone bright. "So, Dad, we've been talking more about that resort. We think it's the perfect place for you. You'll love it." I nodded slowly, letting her words hang in the air. "Funny you should mention that. I've been making some plans too." Her smile faltered just slightly, confusion flickering across her face. "Plans?" Jeremy leaned forward, his voice sharp. "What kind of plans?" I gestured toward the kitchen table, where the folder of signed papers sat neatly stacked. "The kind that makes sure I'm not anyone's burden." Their eyes followed my hand, and for the first time, I saw it, the crack in their confidence. Caitlin's smile wavered, Jeremy's jaw tightened. They didn't know yet, but they could feel it. Something had shifted. They thought they were walking into victory, but what I revealed next would tear their scheme apart. The air inside the house was thick, heavier than any silence I'd ever known. Caitlin stood frozen near the kitchen table, her eyes locked on the folder of papers. Jeremy's jaw tightened, his confidence cracking as the reality began to sink in. What is this? Caitlin's voice wavered, the sweetness gone. I leaned back in Ellen's chair, calm, steady, almost amused. That, sweetheart, is proof that this house is no longer yours to dream about. It's already spoken for. Jeremy stepped forward, his tone sharp, almost desperate. You can't just sell it without talking to us. We had plans. I cut him off, my voice firm but measured. Plans for my life. My home. My sacrifice. You thought I was too old, too confused to notice. But I heard every word. Every laugh. Every calculation. Caitlin's face flushed, her eyes darting to Jeremy, then back to me. Dad, you misunderstood. We were just worried about you. Worried. I let the word hang in the air, heavy and bitter. Worried enough to call me a burden? Worried enough to count the value of this house before I was even gone. Her lips trembled, but no words came. Jeremy tried to recover, his voice low, controlled. You're making a mistake. Selling this place so fast, you'll regret it. I stood, my hand steady, my voice sharper than it had been in years. The only mistake I made was giving too much, for too long. I built this house with my own hands. I gave you everything, tuition, weddings, shelter, food. And in return, you plotted to erase me. The silence that followed was crushing. Caitlin's eyes filled with tears, but I didn't flinch. Jeremy's mask of confidence had shattered completely. I walked to the bay window, staring out at Ellen's garden, the porch swing where we had once dreamed together. You thought I was helpless. You thought I'd let you decide my future. But this house is mine. My decision. And I've already made it. I turned back to them, my voice final, unshakable. When you came back today, you expected control. Instead, you found the truth. I'm not your burden. I'm not your pawn. I'm your father, and I will not be erased. The clock ticked in the hallway, steady and unyielding. Caitlin's tears fell, Jeremy's silence stretched, and I felt something I hadn't in years: peace. Their plan had collapsed, but the real question lingered. What happens when the betrayers realize the old man they underestimated has already won?